What's up, everybody? Welcome to TeslaFix. Today we have a great topic, because when you hear everything about Tesla going on in the news about, for example, the stock surge, it's going bonanza. People are riled up. Yeah, the stock is back up. The shorts are crying right now. But I just don't want to listen to all this jazz. I want to look into a topic that's totally overlooked right now because of the August 8th reveal of the Cybercab. Everybody's very hyped up about this. But hey, let's look at the Tesla Semi and the Semi production.
Welcome to TeslaFix. Make sure to subscribe and like this episode.
Brian is back again. Hey everybody, here's Brian. Future Raza is here. Great that I have you on my channel again. I couldn't abandon the channel any longer because I'm still editing all the videos of my trips that I did. I was in Austria and also in the US, as you know, because we've met in Michigan. Of course, you picked us up from the airport, and yeah, I'm still working on that, but I can't abandon this this channel. So let's talk about the Semi today.
You know, it's fun. I'm trying to think of someone in the Tesla universe that I've spent more time with than you, and I'm not coming up with anybody, at least in person, you know, because we spent more than a week together in Europe. We spent almost a week together in the Midwest. Yeah, so
that's true. It's
so
almost
you know
like camp. We had 2 times camp. Like you were on camp in Germany and also camp in Michigan. And I will come back every time you guys over there invite me. I will be there. It was super fun.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And because you've had a chance to talk with me so extensively off camera, you have a good idea of what I know best. And Semi is a very interesting one to discuss, because we've got a few elements. We're going to start by talking about the factory and production and all that, but it gets way more exciting after that. Stick around.
Yeah, please do that, because of course we have this great drone shots seeing, because what was happening on the side, finally something happened. My gosh, it took so long to go further here. But what is that, Brian? Can you tell the audience what we are seeing?
No one can tell because it's impossible. What we're seeing here, this big flat area has been graded over the past year very slowly. We don't know why it's taking so long, but what you're seeing now is steel. The little triangles that you can see through, those are roof panels. Those are roof trusses. And the ones with the notches on the side, those are vertical columns to which floors or mezzanines would be attached. Some of those could also be more heavy-duty roof trusses, but what you're seeing is steel for the construction of a very heavy-duty building. So this will be erected with steel rather than concrete, like we saw in Berlin and parts of Shanghai. Most of Shanghai is steel. Some parts are cast concrete. We may still see cast concrete if they're doing big, heavy things like stamping and gigacasting, but it is quite possible that this facility would use neither of those, that those parts would be brought in already in place. Unlike a traditional car, which uses a unibody construction, or a traditional pickup, which uses or a more modern pickup, which uses unibody or castings with a structural battery, semis still use a frame rail system where there's heavy steel and everything is attached to it. It's a use that makes sense for semis because you do need that kind of strength.
They're going to build it differently a little bit, like you've explained. I mean,
yes.
It's a different factory. It's a totally different factory. They have different parts to, some things are already prefabricated, like you said. And yeah, so yes. Maybe you can tell the audience a little bit what you think, how the factory will be set, like kind of what it will be. Yeah.
Sure.
How will this unfold?
When you look at the manufacturing of an automobile, the first step is stamping, taking flat sheets of steel or aluminum and stamping them into the shape of body panels, which you will then start welding together. With a semi, you start differently. You start with a steel frame and start attaching things to that. So fundamentally, it's an entirely different process. We've seen where the motors go, they go on each axle. We've seen where the cabin goes, it sits on top of it. The neat thing we've seen is how efficiently Tesla has packed in all the engineering So they do not require a huge front end like you see on most American big rigs. You see something more like the cab over design that you see in European semis.
Hmm.
So it's a better use of space entirely. It's just more efficient. So what will the factory itself look like? It'll look more like Fremont on the inside and less like Giga Texas or Giga Berlin or Giga Shanghai. Those are vertical factories where everything is stacked up into the rafters, several stories high for maximum efficiency. Semis aren't going to need something quite like that. So
Hmm.
while I would expect a new auto factory to be from first foundations to production, 15 to 18 months to complete, 24 months to get into production, this could be more like 9 to 12 months to completion with another
Hmm.
unknown amount, 3 to 6 months for outfitting and actual production. So something like this could move much more quickly than the other auto factories we've seen Tesla and other manufacturers build. This is going to, and it doesn't need to be as vertical. And when
Hmm.
it comes to things that weigh 20,000, 30,000 pounds, you know, 10 tons, you don't necessarily want them climbing 50 to 80 feet and coming back down. That's not necessarily the best use of energy or the safest thing to do. A horizontal manufacturing line would work just fine.
So I brought up a picture here for 1 second where somebody is doing something on the semi at least. So yeah, that's a line of Tesla semi kind of, so people get an image out of that. So yeah.
Yes. So this is presumably at the building that's next door to the one you just showed in Zangler's video. Zangler does great work.
Yeah.
He's loyal, dedicated. He's been shooting every other or every 1 to 2 times a month. But now he's saying, I'll go to every week. I'll go to twice a week. You guys, all you got to do is watch the videos and I will do it. So subscribe to him if you haven't. He
Yeah,
does
do that.
great work and he needs our support. But you can get a rough idea. Now, this total space you're seeing here is unlikely to be all factory. It's more likely to be factory plus the lots around it. And the steel you're seeing is outside of the footprint. We don't know exactly how big the footprint is. Many will recall that I tracked the factory progress in Texas with more accuracy than I had any right to. And I would be tracking this as well with updated math to figure it out. The formulas have changed a bit because this is a different kind of factory and I've had to do different kinds of research to figure out what kind of timelines I'm looking at. So this factory, I'm expecting it to be done in the first half of 26.
Hmm.
That is,
Okay.
of course, dependent on when we see the first footings going in. You dig a hole, you put your footing in it, you pour the concrete, and then you wait 30 days. So we're not going to see vertical columns for at least 30 days from when that video was shot. Probably a minimum of 31 days from that time that video was shot because they have to dry. And there are ways you
Hmm.
can go a little quicker, but it introduces a whole lot of extra cost while only shortening your timeline by a week, maybe a week and a half.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
That's
For
not
the
worth the
semi,
cost.
no, exactly. Because the semi has kind of a different pacing in comparison to for example, the Cybercab is like a big deal for Tesla right now. So I think it's like a side project, but it isn't actually. So I wouldn't say so because semis are actually very important, and I think now it's important also for the audience. Why are we looking at drone footage? Why are we talking about the semi? How does the semi fit into the picture of Tesla? Why do we need this? I mean, in Germany, we're anticipating the semi pretty much as well, and people are excited about also like hardcore German people engineers that are just don't like Tesla at all. They like the semi idea. They like the idea of replacing the semis. And Mercedes also does electric semis already. And yeah, it's interesting to see that for the European market as well. So, but
So,
maybe you have your
yeah.
thoughts as well here. Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick half step back, because the question is, why haven't they made them yet? What's the delay? Is it the engineering? The engineering seems to be working just fine. They've had one recall, and that recall was for a emergency brake actuator or something like that. It wasn't even a Tesla part. It affected hundreds of thousands of similar trucks in the US. It's not that. The engineering, to me, appears to be where it needs to be. So what's the delay?
Yeah,
And
what
my
is
answer,
the delay?
there you go. Here we go. The answer is the batteries. They don't have enough batteries. They announced the groundbreaking because they thought 4680 was done. Now, this doesn't use 4680. This uses the 2170s from next door. Why does it matter what the 4680 does? Tesla started making 4680 Model Ys in Texas. The plan was that everything out of Texas would use 4680s. And if they did, they would have enough 2170s to build the semi. Because each one takes 850 megawatts. That's 10 cars worth of batteries. So you can't, and Elon said twice, Tesla is not battery constrained. Right. For what they're building today. If you want to add a 500,000 semis to it, you are out of batteries. So LG should have their 4680 factory in the South, I don't remember where, running within a matter of months. As soon as that's done, all the Model Ys made in Texas can switch to 4680. All the batteries that were going to Texas can now stay in Reno. That means you have the ability to start making them. And if LG can ramp that factory, maybe they start making 4680 cars in Fremont as well. Maybe more cars are now going to qualify for the full federal credit while having enough batteries left over to make the semi. So you've now got the capacity. That's what's been the delay. That's what I've been saying for years. Well, there's plenty of batteries. Use LFP. You can't. The energy density is insufficient based on the cells that were available at the time. We don't want to build a factory based on what we might hope to have in a year. We need to build it based on what we know we will have for sure. So the timing is right. And now the question is, how many are they going to make?
Yeah.
What's a good number?
2? No.
I think it's going to be more than 2.
Nice.
But the Cadillac Celestiq, that might be 2. That new $340,000 car, I joked saying, oh man, this car is so amazing. They're going to sell 5s and 5s of these. They're going to fly out a very small door at very low speeds, but I don't know who the car is for.
It's just for the president, I think, for now, because he praised they much so much. And
it's I don't know who it's for, and neither do they. That's not the point. We're getting off track. So how many are they going to build? Well, Tesla believes in extreme scale. Everything they do it, man. When they flip the switch, it is on. So I think their target, now what they say their target is, they said, 50,000, this year or next year. I don't think 50,000 is in any way the end goal. 50,000 would represent a whole lot of revenue, billions of dollars. But what it would really represent is just a first step, because when you've got a manufacturing line that can produce at volume, the only question is who needs it. So now let's talk about that. Who needs it? And the answer is not everyone, not today. Most use cases probably covered, not all. They know where it works and where it doesn't. So what they'll be able to do is reach out to their bulk buyers and say, you're getting, how many do you want and where? Start getting your permits. Get your permits, get your power in, especially if you're someone like Amazon where you're running predictable routes every day. It doesn't matter if it takes 12 hours to juice up if you're only using the truck 8 hours a day. Or if you're only using it 2 hours every 6 hours, it doesn't matter If you're charging slower than ideal, that's fine. Um, what they so they have to start building it out in such a way that they can sell it only to the people who can actually use it the most.
Mhm.
And those customers will know if you operate in a state where power rates are prohibitively high, maybe it's not for you. If you have to rely on public mega chargers, the savings might not be as good as you had hoped. But if you can charge at your own depot, you will be able to save a whole lot of money.
I mean, it's
And yes,
this one is the biggest selling point, I think, also for the Semi, is that it can charge while you are just offloading the car. I mean, there are, of course, logistics centers that have gas as well. They have huge diesel tanks that they also fill up sometimes the semis, or they're filled up and then they just offload their cargo. But I think that makes so much sense that you can just plug in the car and it charges while you offload it, because offloading sometimes takes hours. It depends on the stuff that's inside of the truck. And I think
Yes.
that's a huge game changer for the industry. And we also seen the test results of Frito-Lay and PepsiCo that we've
Yes.
seen.
Yes.
Great results.
And those
Yeah.
those tests, I forget what it was called, Ride to Drive or something like
Yeah.
that. There was a big test, and that got a lot of criticism from people who didn't understand how the test was structured. It wasn't bring us your best demonstration vehicle. It was, hey, do you have in your existing fleet an actual use case that we can slap some monitors on to see how it's doing? So it could be that companies that performed worse than others had customers who were using it a little outside its intended use case. It doesn't matter. If it works within the use case is all that matters. And Tesla's very good at organizing their customers in such a way that they understand what their needs and benefits are and how it's going to work. So it's going to be a business decision. If the price is right, it will sell. And when you're producing the batteries yourself, you have a lot of control over the cost, your cost. And especially if you say, look, if we can just increase output by 10%, we can shave costs by 5%. That would be an effortless decision to make, and they would have the capacity to scale in ways that others do not. A lot of semi-truck builders, if you see their factories, you look at it and go, what year is this? This looks like 100-year-old assembly line. And for a lot of them, it is. And Tesla's will not. Tesla's will be among the most advanced factories for semi-trucks in the world, and probably the most advanced in the US, maybe by a good margin.
Yeah, and also what I find very interesting there is that when you look at it, this is a utility vehicle. People need to know what a utility category actually entails. Also with the Cybertruck, if the Cybertruck is saving costs for a contractor, for example, if the Semi saves maybe just 5% of the cost of operating, this is already a number that they are willing to pay for the Semi to get those numbers in and to switch over. I mean, the utility vehicles are different, have different use cases than a commercial car or something like this. So it's not about, it's about cost savings, and it has to make sense, because when it is more expensive to operate, they wouldn't buy it, of course. I mean,
would you buy an electric vehicle with a range of 150 miles?
No.
Okay. I met a man in Portland who is an electrician. He bought an electric Ford van that has a range of 150 miles. And he said, no, hear me out. This was a last one in inventory clearance kind of model. I paid $50,000 US for the van. I could have got a gas van cheaper. But because it's a business, I got the 7,500 credit. I paid 42,500. And I don't drive more than 150 miles a day.
Depending on the use case.
I'm an electrician. I stay in the Tri-County area. I was paying $500 a month for gas, and now I'm paying about $60 a month for electricity.
That's insane.
So
Yeah.
$450 a month. That means after 5 years, the van was free. Free. That is, well, and you can't compete with that. And he knows his use case. He says, twice I've had to drive up to Seattle to pick up some weird supplies. I know where the chargers are. I stopped and charged. It cost, $15, $20 to do the round trip. It's fine. It works and it saves so much money. And when I posted the video, people responded saying, oh yeah, but what if you've got a trailer and he has to unhook and do, I go, well, I think his charger's in the right place because he's an electrician. He knows where to put it. And it doesn't matter what you think his use case is. It's a business decision. When you need, the best chips, the best batteries, the best whatever it is, you make the business decision that fits. So if the cost works, it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the next question, which is autonomy.
Oh, yeah.
I've been asked by a viewer to try and predict which will be worth more money, the robotaxi or the robo-semi, because transportation is a $1 trillion industry. Now, of course, they wouldn't get all of transportation. That includes a lot of things that are not semi-related. But if I can put my trailer full of whatever on a autonomous semi on the East Coast, and 48 hours later it shows up on the West Coast, there's no driver who is limited to 10 hours a day generally. Certainly they have very strict, you could have a driver team. Okay, so now I'm replacing 2 drivers instead of 1. And the other thing is, think about a refrigerated truck and how much time they spend idling on the side of the road while the driver is resting. They're just burning gas all day, keeping that trailer cool while the driver's resting, fueling, sleeping. Well, now it doesn't have to sit idle. The pollution is now gone, mitigated. The noise is gone. The space needed to store them just outside the edge of the town where the ports are is under control. It's done. It's just done.
Yeah.
So
and also those costs are totally different. A truck driver takes a lot of money, but so now you could ask yourself, oh no, but then the jobs are lost and truck driving is replaced. Yep. No. Those, I think they will be shipping more stuff around. That's what my guess is, because it's not as expensive. Costs will go down from products. So that's a nice driver during these inflationary times that we have. So transport is actually a huge factor of pricing of goods as well. So if gas prices are up, everything else is up, because of course it's tied to that. It's tied to transportation. That's why diesel is when diesel prices fluctuate, also the food prices fluctuate as well. So it's about transportation.
If you look at If you look at the cost of getting payload to orbit, you would think that as soon as SpaceX came along, every company would start throwing satellites into orbit, but they didn't. And it's because they had to know that those prices were available. People who were able to design and build satellites weren't doing it because the cost was so prohibitive to launch.
Yep.
Now that that's happened, we're seeing universities able to afford to put a CubeSat into orbit to do research.
Crazy.
That's crazy. And when Falcon Heavy came out, there were very few uses. Only recently we had the 10th Falcon Heavy launch. You said, well, if this capacity is there, why is no one using it? Because no one knew it was there, and it takes a while to design and build a satellite. And we're going to see the same thing with Starship. But you're right. There are, when it comes to any of these autonomous commercial vehicles like the Semi, imagine if instead of, you've seen people who have moving pods where they load all their stuff into a little shipping container and then it shows up at the new house. Wouldn't it be great if My driveway only fits one. I only need one, but I actually need like 6, but one at a time. If each time it just drove off and was just gone, just didn't see it again. It's just there. Or if the U-Haul that you load up yourself, when you hop in it, it just gives you a nice, comfy ride to your destination, to your new home. All of these things are going to happen. The question is when and who's going to make money off it. And if you want to get real dreamy, imagine Tesla selling the Semi as an RV that can also drive you around.
Oh, that's also nice.
I don't have a commercial, truck driver's license. You don't need one. It's going to do itself. It's going to get you there on its own.
That's true.
So that's far down the road. I don't know if that'll ever happen. It probably will. It won't be a big revenue source, but it's exciting to think about. But just moving goods without people. Now, once you've got no need for a driver, you have no need for a cabin. All that weight that you dedicated to the driver and the driver's safety can just be replaced with an aerodynamic nose cone. You just dropped another 4,000, 5,000 pounds off the design. You're getting there. And the battery efficiency continues to improve, which is either going to improve range or reduce weight or both, which means more weight you can haul, which means more use cases it will work for. And with the battery credit in place, that battery is bringing in a whole lot of money in terms of its value. You're going to get probably $40,000 off the cost up front just from the batteries being made domestically in the US at least.
I mean, if those aren't reasons to look deeply into the Semi, I don't know what is, but it's interesting to see actually the developments there that people overlook this topic a little bit right now. I mean, it's not as buzzy as the Cybercab or anything else, and there's a lot of buzz going around Tesla all the time. Now everybody's focused on the stock, at least because it just shot up. But yeah, why did it shoot up? Who knows why? I mean, a lot of great factors are going on right now with Tesla, but I think it's so important to look at the core products all the time. If the stock is down or up, it doesn't matter. Actually, just looking at the products, what are they pushing out? What are they doing right now? And I think the developments with the Semi that people criticize, like you said, oh, why isn't it running right now? It's due to the batteries, like you've explained. I think that was a pretty interesting point that I didn't also seen so much that it's due to that reason. So it's interesting to I've learned a lot already. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why you bring me on. And I see people all the time saying that this should have been done years ago. I agree, but I'm not going to make that argument because I don't know what they know. We also saw people saying, well, they should have done the compact before the Cybertruck. Well, no, the Cybertruck was the stepping stone to get us there. If we're going to skip the Cybertruck, we should have also skipped the Y and the 3 and the X and the S. Just start with it. Well,
or just don't start Tesla at all. How about that?
There are people who say to hell with cars, but they're also mildly mentally ill in many cases. There are, come on, guys, get real. But and I would love to live in a walkable city. I can't afford that. Walkable cities already exist. If you don't live in one, ask why, and that starts to get you to the answer of why cars are still so important. And
especially in the US, I have to jump in here for 1 second and interrupt here because I was in the US before, but I just visited the East Coast and especially New York, for example. I wasn't so aware how big the US is actually, especially in the West Coast. It's interesting to see that also in Michigan and everywhere we went to the Midwest. And it's interesting to see your highway network is actually insane because I see 7 minutes drive. We can walk there. No, you can't. It's because there's a highway going through the city, and that's why you just go onto the highway. That's why it's 7 minutes. The distances feel so short with the car because you have highways everywhere, and that's where the Semi is that's so interesting. And the Semi doesn't need to drive through rural areas at all. It can drive just on the highway. That's a sufficient enough use case to get into from a logistics center to a logistics center somewhere. That's enough to just drive the highway. There are connections to that infrastructure, of course. And, I mean, so much sense. It makes so much sense, especially autonomously.
When Lars from Best and Tesla looked at the map of Michigan, he said, "Oh, so we're going to land here, and the event is here." How long is that? 20, 30 minutes? That's 3 hours. That's 3 hours of driving we are going to be doing. And I apologize if the mitten's backwards. It's flipped on the screen. I can't see which way I'm going. But it is a fairly large country. On my drive back from Michigan, I went first to Carmel, Indiana. That was, 5-6 hours. From there, I went to Tulsa, which was about 12 hours. From Tulsa, I went to Amarillo, which was another 12 hours. From there, I went to Phoenix, which was probably another 8-10 hours, maybe 12. Probably 10. From there, I went to San Diego, which was another 8-10 hours. I mean, it's a big country, man. It's a big country. And I was slow.
That's why many Americans think Europe is actually just like a theme park, a US theme park kind of. They just go over there. Oh, everything is so small and cute. Wow, this looks like Switzerland. Yeah, it is.
It is. Does it really? Yeah, this looks like a Bavarian village.
It is a
Bavarian village. You guys even have cuckoo clocks. We invented them. Okay. You guys are weird.
That's funny, but I think autonomous driving, the semi, or that this possibilities even in the room is just also because of the technology that Tesla invented and put in there. I think autonomous internal combustion engine cars are possible, but you get the whole package from Tesla. That's the big deal. That's the thing. Also, they will improve the utility software, that also fleet operation software. That's the next step. And I think with the Cybercab that will be unveiled on August 8th, we will see more use cases because now we have the user interaction with the owner of the car and also the people that want to drive the car that you lend it to. That's a use case that they already pictured with the app. But now we have the case that you call the Tesla. That's the next use case they will be showing. And then fleet operation on all those functions will come more and more also with the semi software. I mean, it's interesting what will happen there, because the semi technology will trickle down to the Cybertruck as well, in my opinion, because it's also a utility vehicle. So I think all the developments will come together when we move forward in the developments.
And I think it's AI is a perfect tool for doing something like fleet management, for understanding where vehicles need to go, when, how, all that. And wouldn't it be something if, there's a charger that needs to be repaired, or there's a power outage expected. So it just kind of reroutes all the trucks through a different path, because, there's a unacceptably high likelihood of a grid scale outage in this area. It can all happen. And that's what we're already seeing with things like AutoBidder, where it will try to predict the weather to understand what the power rates are going to be in an hour, a day, a week, so it can manage accordingly. And that's the big advantage so far that Tesla has over a lot of their competitors, is it doesn't matter if your device costs half of what mine does, if the lifetime cost is significantly higher.
Absolutely. And you've showed me actually something also in my Model 3 that I wasn't aware of really, was the prediction of the chart. Just the chart, because I know the chart, I looked at the chart, I used the chart, but I didn't realize what the chart actually entails and how much innovation is inside of this chart. I mean, this is crazy. It's just a chart that predicts how much energy you will have left when you arrive at your destination, how you arrive there. But that it also considers the wind speed. Please tell the audience what I'm talking about.
Well, for those who don't know, you put in your destination. I'm going, 100 miles from here. And it says, okay, when you get there, you'll have, 28% state of charge, whatever. But if you pull up the graph, it's a little green icon of a graph.
Mhm.
If you pull that up, it says, here's what your actual drive is going to look like. And it's going to go, well, I'm trying to make it look good here. It's going to go like this. And then it's going to, you've got these weird lines in it. And if you look at that when you're on the highway, you see, well, it's about to level off. Does that mean I'm going to be going downhill? Yes, it does. It means you're going downhill. So this chart accounts, of course, for elevation, of course, for your driving speed, but it also accounts for the weather. And it says, hey, you had a 3 mile an hour wind from the southeast. You saved 0.7% on this trip. And by the way, if you stayed under 70 miles an hour, you'd get better range. It would have saved you 2%. You're like, well, yeah, but I'm in a hurry. So come on.
Yeah, but
And
I mean, this is actually insane. The amount of technology that goes into that, and that's why I think Tesla will figure out all the other use cases that are necessary for that. Like you've said, like it could predict with the outages, with AI into that mix. I mean, Tesla already uses AI for a long time. We know that the FSD software that they solved in I think 2020 was that they can simulate the outcomes of things that happen on the road, for example, and also that you have the shadow mode. It kind of predicts how you will drive, how the drive will be, and then just tracks when you do something differently. So they train their network as well, the FSD network and stuff like this. I mean, this is just...
It's insane.
It's
and
insane.
Just talking about the graph, let's say you're another manufacturer and you wish to add this feature to your car. How? You're going to go back out to the software guys and say, this is what we want it to do. And they're going to go, boy, so we're going to need to pull data from all your systems, from the map, from this is
weather networks or weather.
This is, I mean, we can, but it's going to, first of all, it's going to take us longer to develop it than the development cycle of the vehicle. So it's not going to be on this model. It's probably not going to make it for the next model, but we can get it on the one after that. Most of the features that the legacy guys add are ones that the suppliers come up with. So the suppliers come to them and go, here's something we can add. We already did it in-house, so you can just add it. Things like all your satellite radio and all that, those weren't the automakers' innovations. That was the satellite guys pushing to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Absolutely. So how do you think this will impact the industry on the whole? I mean, how much money could be saved? I mean, that's not easy to predict or anything. I'm not telling you now that you should make an assumption, but maybe think about a little bit what this future will entail.
How much will it cost to get my trailer from one coast to one coast? I'm going to guess half. I'm going to guess half between the fuel savings and the labor savings.
Mm-hmm.
Why would it? The fuel savings alone is going to take a good chunk off, but the biggest chunk is labor. And if you're cutting those two things, and there are a lot of companies that are working on this, and maybe they'll be among the first to market. Maybe they'll be the first to market. Maybe Volvo, because I think they're one that's working on it. I think Mercedes is working on it, on autonomous semis. And we can argue that, well, this loss of jobs is catastrophic. Yes, but it's coming. That part can't be stopped. The only question is who's going to be doing it. And will they, if Volvo or Mercedes is first, will they be able to ramp in a way that would allow them to dominate the market? I don't think they could. I haven't seen a company that can ramp production the way Tesla can. And they get a lot of criticism for ramping slowly, but look at the growth year over year up until, this last year.
And also what people need to consider is the scalability, because also Volvo and Mercedes also still rely on LiDAR, for example, and stuff like this. The semis are way more expensive than the Tesla semi when it's ramped, I think. I think when Tesla ramps up production and it goes to that system, and also relying just on cameras, not on LiDAR as well, having that system, that FSD system, I think that's a competitive advantage that nobody can catch up with.
But what about when the cameras get blocked by mud? Okay, add little squirters and washers to each of the cameras.
BMW already does,
That cost what? $100. Okay, we're fixed. We fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty pretty straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. I also see that. I mean, for example, the Cybertruck also has this washer on the front camera, for example, small
Sure,
washer.
but
there.
you'll need it on all the cameras. Okay,
Wow,
put it
that's easy.
on all the cameras. That is the
Yeah.
easiest problem to have. And my problem with LiDAR is that not only is it very expensive, they say, oh, well, we can make it cheaper. You can't make it as cheap as a camera. That's impossible. But you could get the price down to,
Mhm.
if it's a couple thousand, that's fine. If it's tens of thousands, it might still work. You're replacing labor. Fine. Let's just pretend that's fine. They're fragile. They're fickle. They are moving parts, high precision moving parts. And that leaves room for problems.
Mhm. And also, when all those sensors are in the car, then the sensors start to debate which sensor is right. Actually, that's also a huge deal that Andrew Carpathy talked about. Or Andre.
That is a whole other problem.
Yeah.
But a very real one. And again, we're just assuming that Volvo or Mercedes or BYD will solve the software side. Just the hardware alone remains costly and fickle.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is I think we understand why the Semi took so long to get into production. We understand the value proposition today with human drivers in a largely identical world to what the cars were doing a few years ago. And we can see where it's headed, which is volume production, followed by autonomous volume production. And all of it is a perfect storm for Tesla Semi.
Yeah. And also, I think for the end of the episode, the big advantage that Tesla has in that regard is that they can switch strategies because they have their hand on battery production. If they have megapack production as well running and ramping up, I mean, they have so many different utilizations of the batteries that they can shift strategies on the fly, like they did, for example, with 4680s. Okay, it's more difficult to produce the 4680s. They couldn't ramp it up as fast as they liked. And then they just shifted strategies. And or for example, okay, the Cybertruck isn't on the road already. Let's just use the 4680s to gather data in the Model Y, for example, and then just put it in the Model Y. And then they have data of the battery before they put that in the Cybertruck. And it just makes sense. Stuff like this makes sense. And if they are, for example, having problems with one category, they can just switch over to another category, for example, use the batteries for another purpose, for example. Yeah. And the Semi is a perfect example.
Yes, but I've got an impossible question that I can't get answers to. Right.
Oh, which one?
You don't no. Well, you don't need to hire a consultant to figure it out. You don't need to farm that out to a third party. You need to ask your department who knows the answer, because if you need a new alloy designed, we can do that. If you need, the impossible questions can all be answered in-house at Tesla.
Yeah. I mean, well, I would say that's a pretty big advantage for Tesla. So, Brian, thank you very much for diving into this big topic here. The Semi, I think, is an overlooked topic that people should pay attention to. And do you have closing thoughts on the topic, or are we done? Should people ask questions finally in the comments? Should they be riled up right now? What are these guys talking about? How about, oh no, the labor will be gone and stuff like this. There are a lot of concerns, and valid concerns, of course. But I think, in my opinion, that's just mine. Maybe people disagree. Please write if you do. And also write if you agree, of course. And just write when you want to write something. That's also good.
Yeah.
But
my question in the comments would be, where did we go a little too far with this? And where did we not go far enough? Because I think both of those will have interesting answers. So I look forward to that. And of course, I always try and come in and check out the comments.
Yeah, he will. I will force him to, of course, like I always do. But I wanted to say that I think just for food of thought, I think the transportation will increase when semis will be autonomously, or driving autonomously, because I think people want to move more stuff because it's cheaper to do that, and they probably will. And so I think it will reduce the jobs, but not as severe as people think. I think people will shift to being fleet operators, and truckers will become fleet operators, maybe have 5 semis under their supervision or stuff like this. That's a route they will be going. So thank you very much, Brian, for doing this. And of course, check his channel. I mean, you subscribe to him. I'm just his 3rd channel right now so far, I would say. So yeah, and also come back to the channel again, because I have a lot of interesting stuff in the pipeline that I want to show you guys. So keep watching the channel, and thank you very much, Brian, for doing this, and see you soon, everybody.
Wasn't this episode awesome? Let's accelerate the pace of innovation by subscribing to TeslaFix. It is my absolute favorite channel on the whole interwebs.